Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zoom presentation this morning. The topic of discussion will be over mental health. Let's talk mental health. And our presenter today will be Sabrina Simon. She's a specialist from Prairie A&M University's Cooperative Extension Program. Thank you, Sabrina.
How common mental health is. We will kind of go over some statistics. So I am going to share my screen and we're ready to begin, Tiana?
Yes, we're ready when you are.
Okay.
And for those that have questions, you can either type them in the chat area and we can answer the questions at the end. So yeah.
Tiana, I need for you to allow me to share my screen.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Is it allowing you to?
Not yet. There. We got it.
You have the screen up? Have you begun to share, Sabrina?
Okay, maybe. Oh, I have to hit share down at the bottom. Learning curve, you all. Be patient, please. Okay. Can you see? All right. Again, welcome. My name is Sabrina Simon. I am a program specialist at the Cooperative Extension Program, Prairie University. And for the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about some aspects of mental health. For those that don't know, this month is National Minority Mental Health Month. July is. So we're also celebrating that this month. As we know, 2020 will be almost known as the year of pandemics. We started out with the coronavirus about 3 or 4 months ago. And then a month or so ago, we had the racial discourse on discrimination brought about some instances that, and I'm quite sure that we're all aware. And this has caused us, most of us, some stress. And stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional strain. I got to move some things. Stress is your body's response to anything that requires attention or action or action. Everyone experiences stress. I know we all have experienced stress at some point in life, and that's our body's natural. It's our body's natural fight or flight response. And also, something going. Y'all be patient with me. I'm trying to. How do I move these boxes, Tiana? Let me see. I gotta do it this way. Nope. Okay, now I'm ready. And also, because of the months that we have had to endure with the coronavirus and all, some of us may be moving into distress. Distress occurs when stress is severe or prolonged or both. So the fact that we continue to move into the unknown and how long we can also be moving into distress for some of us. The objectives today is we will first go through some mental health terminology so we'd be more familiar with some health terms, and then we will review some statistical data that is relevant to mental health. And when we look at this data, it will bring about a more awareness of how common mental health really is. And we will end up and we'll discuss mental health as it relates to the current pandemics that we are experiencing. Mental health, which includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, is an essential part of our overall health. In fact, our mental health and physical health are interrelated, meaning that the mental health can affect the physical health, because if you're not stable, then it'll cause things like cardiovascular disease. So in the same way that good physical health affects our ability to lead healthy lives, good mental health helps us to stay healthy and lead meaningful lives also. Mental health involves being able to participate in daily activities like work, school, worship, and recreational activities. It helps us to develop and maintain healthy relationships and adapt to change and cope with adversity. When we have good mental health, we are resilient, can handle life's challenges and stresses, have meaningful relationships, and make sound decisions. Mental health, like physical health, is important at every stage of our life, from childhood and adolescence through our adulthood and older age. Being mentally healthy is influenced by life experiences, relationships with others, physical health, and one's environment. Just as people may experience physical problems over the course of their lives, they may also experience emotional or mental health problems that affect their thinking, mood, and behaviors. However, this does not say that there's actually an illness. Just because someone may be experiencing a difficult time in life or experiencing poor mental health, this does not denote that they have a mental illness. In most cases, recovery from mental illness and mental health challenges is possible with the right support. Many people go on to live happy and productive lives. And that's what we want to key on, that we all go through some things. And even those that may be diagnosable, we want to know that, first of all, mental health is not imaginary. People are not making things up. Mental health is truly real, and it's very common. Also, mental health is not something that someone can just get over. Especially, I've seen this with individuals maybe in addiction, that we may think that, well, why don't you just stop? Why don't you just quit? And it's not that easy, because addiction is a mental health. And I am a member of NAMI, and NAMI have this saying that the brain is broke when it comes to mental illnesses, and just like anything else, it has to be repaired. It's not a character flaw. Mental illness are medical conditions, diagnosable medical conditions. However, it does not define us. And you hear people, the reason I say that, it do not define us, because you hear people say, oh, he's a schizo. Oh, he's a crackhead. Oh, he's a meth head. And mental health illnesses do not define who we are. It's just an illness, and it can affect anyone. Mental illness can be caused by biological factors such as genetics or brain chemistry. It can also be brought on through trauma and abuse. And sometimes there's a family history of mental illness, and a lot of times we don't want to, this is the thing that we don't talk about a lot of times, but sometimes if there's a family history of mental illness, then you're more predisposed. It's not saying that you will, but you're more predisposed to maybe having some mental health issues. So I know culturally within the African American culture, and I'm quite sure some people can attest, is like, what happens in this house stays in this house. And a lot of times that's a hindrance, because there are things that need to be discussed and need to be known that we don't talk about. And also, mental health is not untreatable. Mental health conditions are treatable. They're just like any other medical conditions, such as diabetes or heart disease. It is treatable, and it can be, you can live with a mental health illness or recover. So some common mental health terms. Mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes their abilities, they can cope with the normal stressors of life, and can work productively, and is able to contribute to their community. Being mentally healthy helps you feel confident in your worth and abilities, accept your strengths and weaknesses, set realistic goals, and create a sense of meaning and purpose in life. Mental health challenges, on the other hand, may be experienced by all of us and do not necessarily refer to an underlying condition or illness. A mental health challenge can arise at particularly stressful moments in our lives, such as what we're living in now is the COVID-19 virus, the job loss that's occurring, the isolation that's occurring by stay-at-home orders or working from home, the way that we're having to grieve our loved ones, those that's in hospitals where we can't go in, the social discourse of the current racial discrimination events, all these can bring about mental health challenges. But the one difference is mental health challenges are usually bound by time, meaning it's an event that happens and we adjust to that and it moves on. So the difference between mental illness is that mental illnesses are conditions which people's thinking, mood, and behaviors negatively impact their day-to-day function over a long period of time. Mental illness can include depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, or metabolic disease than the general population. And people with serious mental illness are nearly twice as likely to develop these conditions. Whereas 19.3% of, which is a little over, we'll say 20% of the US adults with mental illness also experience substance use disorder. And this is based on 2018 data. And the clinicians call this dual diagnosis because a lot of times when there's delayed treatment, they call it self-medication. And self-medication, they start taking drugs or some kind of street drugs because of the problems that they're having, maybe brain chemistry, genetics, as we stated before, but they will start using drugs to try to, I guess, diminish whatever they're experiencing, which actually exacerbates the mental illness, because now you don't only you have a dual diagnosis, your substance use disorder and whatever your other diagnosis may be. Also, high school students with significant symptoms of depression are more than twice as likely to drop out compared to their peers. So this is what the ripple effect with the individual. It ripples over into the family, because now statistics say that at least 8.4 million people in the US provide care for an adult with a mental or emotional health issue. And if you ever been downtown in Houston, it'll attest to, there's a lot of individuals that's homeless that have mental health issues. When you look at the state and federal prison system, 37% of the adults incarcerated in state and federal prison systems have a diagnosable mental illness. Whereas in the juvenile justice system, 70% of the youth in the juvenile system have a diagnosable mental illness. And the other in the community is the community of the veterans, and it's statistics say that 41% of all veterans patients having diagnosable mental illness and or substance use disorder. From there, it goes over into the world, and like I say, a ripple. Depression and anxiety disorders cost the global economy $1 trillion in lost productivity each year, while depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. So we can see that mental health can be a ripple effect, that it'll affect us all at some point. If it's not directly in your family, then it may be affecting your community. And if it's not in your community, it's certainly affecting this world. So there is another virus within the mental health community. And this virus is stigma. Unfortunately, stigma surrounding mental health is still so very common. It's still the thing that people, or the condition, or that people do not like to discuss. While stigma is not limited to mental conditions, attitudes toward psychiatric illnesses tend to be more negative than that toward other medical conditions. And we know that to be so, because we can sit down and have a conversation about somebody's diabetes or somebody's heart disease, but when we start talking about how Uncle Joe act, then it becomes a family secret. Have you ever heard, and when it talks to stigma, you know, we have to be careful about how we talk and the things that we say, because that can increase the stigma on those that may be suffering. If you have ever heard someone say, oh, that's just when they're straightening up something, oh, that's just my OCD kicking in, which is the obsessive compulsive disorder, you know, and we may laugh it off because we know that it's not really a diagnosed condition, but the person that's suffering with OCD, it's not funny. The person that has to wash his hands until they're almost raw, or the person that has to check the door 12 times before they leave. This is truly a diagnosable condition, and it's not funny. So we have to be careful as individuals that we don't minimize the we don't label and make a joke of these conditions. Things like, and I know the list could go on. So as we move forward, just be more mindful of maybe things that we may say that may illness, health condition, or disability. Social stigmas can also be related to other characteristics, including gender, sexuality, race, religion, and culture. The two stigmas that's associated with mental illness can be divided in two groups, and we can say either internal and external stigma, or social stigma, which is your external stigma, is characterized by prejudicial and discriminating behavior directed towards individuals with mental illnesses. Self-perceived or internal stigma is when persons, when they internalize perceived prejudices and develop negative feelings about themselves. Self-perceived stigmas is manifested by a decrease in self-esteem and increased in depression. Individuals, they usually tend to be shamed and embarrassed about having a mental illness. And so we can see that stigma has an impact on externally. When we're just, we tend to have our own biases. So this is something that we should have to be mindful of, that it leads into them having more internal stigma and feeling like they're less than or embarrassed, which now we'll talk about the impact of stigma. The consequences of stigma can be serious and devastating. With stigma comes a lack of understanding from others, which can be invalidating and painful. The stigma also carries more serious consequences, including fueling fear, anger, and intolerance directed at other people. It can be devastating for someone that's really suffering with a mental illness. I've had lived experience with a loved one that morbidity, and there can be mortality when you look at suicide being the second leading cause of death. Social rejection, avoidance, and isolation. A lot of times individuals that suffer can can suffer in isolation because either they're not accepted, we don't understand as family, which is the next important understanding among friends and family. If we have an individual that we feel may be suffering, then we need to educate ourselves. We need to be more sensitive to that individual and not bring about, don't let them suffer in isolation. We've heard that comment before, that people suffer in isolation, especially those maybe substance abuse disorder, depression, those type of things. Because when you're truly in a depression and you have a diagnosis of depression, getting up can be a very big problem for you. Harassment, violence, and bullying. And when we look at those two groups that had the highest prevalence of mental illness, the LGBTQ and multiracial, we can look at, these are those, especially the LGBTQ population, that suffers harassments and violence because of the social, that there's not a lot of social acceptance to that, or there is a resistance to social acceptance. With the veterans, we can see that the poor quality of life, a lot of them are homeless. A lot of individuals that suffering with mental illness become homelessness because either the family didn't understand or whatever reason why they tend to be sometimes wind up on the streets and homeless, which brings about a socioeconomic burden. And the increased feelings of shame and self-doubt exists there. And this all arises from the stigma that we may have, or the lack of education that may bring on the stigma. So NAMI has 3 steps for being stigma-free. The first one is educate yourself and others. Everyone knows a little about mental health issues, but knowing the facts can help you educate others and reject stigmatizing stereotypes. They are not the result of personal weaknesses. As we say, they're not character flaws, mental illnesses. It's not a lack of character or poor upbringing. Understanding mental health isn't only about being able to identify symptoms and having a name for those conditions, but dispelling false ideas about mental health conditions as well. So it's important that we educate ourselves, not only about what mental illness are and the symptoms, but also, I don't know how many people, if you ever get a chance, mental health first aid, it not only educates you about the symptoms, it also teaches you, give you tools in de-escalation. If someone is in an episode, how to de-escalate, how to deal with it. With substance abuse, realizing that it's not a character flaw, that it's actually a mental health illness. And the more we educate ourselves with that, the more tolerance we'll build up, and the more we'll be able to be part of an individual's support system. See the person, not the condition. Again, not the schizo, not the crackhead, not the meth head. 1 in 5 Americans live with mental health conditions, as we stated before, and each of them has their own story, path, and journey that says more about them than their diagnosis does. Whether you are a friend, family member, caregiver, or medical profession, getting to know a person and treating them with kindness and empathy means far more than just knowing that what they're going through. So seeing the person again and understanding where they are in life and meeting them there. The third one is take action. Our mental health care system has been in crisis for a long time, often keeping treatment and recovery out of the hands of many who need it. We can take action now as we push for better legislation and policies to improve the lives of everyone. Just being there. By lending your support, you can show that this cause is important to you. And by educating ourselves and being their support system, it will help them to get the right treatment so that and move them along in their as they seek recovery from their mental illness. Friends and family members can be important influence to help someone get the treatment and services they need. Now, we started out talking about the pandemics that we are experiencing, and as I come to a close, we'll kind of go over these as it concerns mental health. We know that the coronavirus, or COVID-19 pandemic, has been stressful for most of us because we have fear and anxiety about the new disease, what could happen, and what is happening can be overwhelming and cause strong emotion in not only the adults, but children also, because they're also looking. Public health actions such as social distancing can make people feel isolated and lonely and can increase stress and anxiety. As the number of cases of COVID-19 increases, so does the associated anxiety. For the general public, the mental health effects of COVID-19 are as essential to address as are the physical health effects. And for 1 in 5, because we say 1 in 5 adults who already have mental health conditions, or the 1 in 2 who are at risk of developing them, we need to be aware of the possible signs. And also with the most recent murders of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor, our community and world have seemingly reached a breaking point. These murders have brought up trauma that we have learned to mask, trauma that we didn't know we were carrying inside of us, and trauma that has left us experience a plethora of feelings from numbness to rage. And I have racial trauma here because there is actually a term that's called racial trauma as defined by the American Psychological Association. And it says it's a form of race-based stress. And we talked about stress at the very beginning that affects Black, Indigenous, people of color, their reactions to dangerous events, and real or perceived experience of racial discrimination. These experiences can be threats of harm, humiliating events, and witnessing acts of racial discrimination to non-white people. So what are some common emotional symptoms that we may be feeling now? Feelings of hopelessness or helplessness and desperation, feeling numb, a lot of us with the stay-at-home order, or no longer enjoying the activities that you used to enjoy. I know everyone's like me, the mask and going out, and because I'm from the South and I believe I'm touchy-feely, the not hugging, the social distancing, all of that is causing some kind of angst because it's a new norm. General feelings of negativity and depression, feeling on edge and agitated, angry, and maybe guilt or shame, especially when it comes to the racial discourse that we're dealing with the news, racial discrimination, the events that have happened in the news, and also suicidal ideations. When persons are dealing with maybe depression or some other illnesses, the fact that the some common physical symptoms is becoming easily startled or agitated or maybe even jumpy, feeling on guard as if you danger is lurking, just because of the unknown. Anxiety can bring about rapid heartbeat, tight breathing, or digestive upset. Maybe you're experiencing a loss or increase in appetite, trouble remembering things, and also during these times is more prone to substance abuse issue. As a matter of fact, a couple months ago when we went into the lockdown here, they were saying how in the liquor stores, how sales were soaring because people were at home, they're trying to deal with unemployment or lack of income. So we need to be mindful and look for these and how often they're reoccurring in either ourselves or those that we live around. So what are some things that we can do? First of all, practice self-care, practice self-care. You cannot help anyone if you don't practice self-care. So sometimes we just have to unplug, limit our social media and news intake. Because there is so much in the headlines about racism, violence, and death, and it can be overwhelming, which is why it's okay to have social media, to have a social media fast, or to not pay attention to the news for the next few days. This can help you to lower any stress caused by the daily updates of the recent events. So if you have to, just unplug from the news. I know since I've been working at home, my TV, I may get an update once a day. And other than that, my TV is not on. Recognize the personal impact of these stressors or things that may be stressing you. One of the first things, knowing how to cope and deal with current pandemics, is to first identify how these experiences are affecting you personally. The most important part of self-care is really doing that internal work, finding out where you are, because that's really the only way you can know what your needs are and then find ways to provide for those needs. Examples of internal work can be developing better self-awareness, taking that moment, unplugging, taking that moment to really get in touch with mindfulness, which is one of the techniques for grounding for those that may be experiencing some mental challenges. There are exercises that you can do that will bring you into the moment so that you can identify what you're feeling and name that emotion. And then once you name that emotion, then you can investigate where that emotion is coming from. But one thing about emotions, they come and go. So you have a right. A lot of times we fight what we're feeling. That sounds like fight what you're feeling. But anyway, we fight what we're feeling, but you have a right to feel however you want to feel. So feel that emotion, recognize it, and then you'll be able to move on or adapt better. Self-compassion, self-forgiveness, understanding your own identity and learning what is good for you and what's not. And that's setting healthy boundaries. You have a friend who keeps up with everything that's on the news, and you may be trying to unplug, then maybe you have to set a healthy boundary that, oh, no, I can only talk to her once a week, because she may be, her keeping up with everything that's going on may be a little bit too much overwhelming to you. And exercise self-compassion, Besides committing to our own mental health and self-care, we can also learn to practice mindful self-compassion. Self-compassion, it consists of three main parts. First, self-kindness, loving ourselves, an attitude of kindness and patience toward ourselves. Like I say, don't judge yourself, especially in times of stress. So don't judge yourself for whatever you feel. Accept that feeling. Accept that I'm angry. Accept that I am mad or, well, angry, or I'm sad. Whatever that emotion may be, accept that, be kind to yourself and accept that that's just where you are. The second is common humanity, viewing ourselves and our experiences as part of the greater human community rather than as isolated. A lot of times when we or our loved ones may be dealing with some mental health issues or challenges, we feel like we're in this all alone, but we must realize that we're not, that there are other people that are experiencing these situations or these illnesses. There are support groups out there that we can link up. Like I say, NAMI is an excellent one when it comes to mental health, that are also going through this, and they can be a great support to you. This can help in finding support groups or someone you feel confident in talking to about the feelings you may be experiencing. And finally, mindfulness. Be aware of your emotions, thoughts, without allowing yourself to be overwhelmed. So I think if it's so many things that we can practice, but these are the key. First, unplug, and then just really get in touch with where you are. Be able to identify what's going on with you first. As we go through this pandemic, the coronavirus, the racial discourse. And with that, I would like to say thank you and each of you to stay safe. And at this time, I'll stop sharing my screen, and Tiana, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Thank you, thank you, thank you. At this time, if you have any questions, you can simply unmute your mic and ask questions, or you can put it in the chat box. Also, Susan, are you here, Susan?
I am.
Yes. Do you want to share the link? Did you share the link?
I have just put the link to the survey in the chat box. It's just 10 questions. It takes just a couple, probably 30 seconds to complete.
Okay, yeah, so at this time, yeah, just go into the chat box. Susan put the link in, and just take a couple of minutes, complete that survey. I see some familiar faces in here. It's been so long since we've had face-to-face classes, and I'm like, I miss y'all. I'm like, I can't wait to get back to, you know, what we were doing pre-COVID. So I want to say thank you again for participating. And, you know, every Wednesday we have more classes. You know, I'm looking forward to the classes we have coming up. So please be on the lookout for that. Also, I'm going to share the Facebook page. I know some of you are following the AgriLife page already, and then there's the CP page, and on both pages.
How you doing, Yvonne?
Did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze.
Y'all don't, only if you knew, I cut off like 5 times. And I was like, what's going on? It's the internet. This is crazy. But yeah, in the chat section, you'll find the Facebook link. If you want, please follow, like, and share. There's plenty of resources on there, from meal sites, up and coming presentations. And like I said, a lot of the information you'll find on both pages, and some may differ, but just click like and follow.
So are you saying that we get on there, we can see all this presentation?
The recorded presentation, now Miss Simon, she will share the presentation slide, but as far as upcoming presentations, the date, you will find that on there.
Okay, so that was on that link you just sent us.
Yes, for more flyers. That's the Facebook link.
Okay.
And the link prior to that, that's the survey link.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Pretty
Doing
good.
fine.
This is Lady Trish, and this has been so good today because we all feel a little left out or left behind, and so many things. Seems like time we kind of get stuff on a even keel, something else pops up. Either it's a death in the family, or somebody's in the hospital, or you're not doing so good. So this kind of helps to get things out in the open, and to feel like, hey, you're not in this alone. You know, a lot of people are feeling the same way. And if you express yourself, you know, just talk to one or two people a day, and that'll kind of help a lot of things by expressing yourself. But this has been very good today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you are absolutely right about that. We're all in this together. I was actually speaking to Miss Simon before you all came on, and even myself, I've been experiencing anxiety because just the changes of everything. So no one is exempt from that, you know, experiencing those feelings. So yes, we're all in this together. Yeah, and Miss Simon, if you look in the chat, could you put the mental health organizations that you mentioned in the your presentation? Yeah. Okay. So are there any more questions?
No, I'm good.
How many
Yeah.
more weeks are you going to have presentations?
Miss Susan, how many more weeks? I know at least to the end of August, and
That's
also,
right.
yeah,
Oh,
to the
good.
end of August for the Wellness Wednesday. However, we do have more series coming up, and we'll have flyers for that as well. So we will keep you in the loop. You'll receive the emails. Check the Facebook pages to see. So I'll be posted. They'll be posted on both, because we have series that will begin right after this, the Wellness Wednesdays, which is the last, pretty much the last weekend in August.
Mhm.
And all of them vary, you know, so yeah.
Coming up on the next Wednesday, on the 22nd, is Eating Healthy with Diabetes. And then on the 29th, it's going to be a time change. It will be in the afternoon, but it's on will preparation.
You said next Wednesday is
Eating Healthy.
With diabetes.
Yes, ma'am.
oh, I need that.
And this afternoon, I'll send out the flyer and the link for that, the way you normally get it. I don't know if you receive an email from one of the centers or directly from me.
From one of the centers.
Okay. Well, they should have that this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, everyone, if you have no more questions, I'm so happy y'all came and joined in, and I look forward to seeing y'all next Wednesday. But that is all.
It's also nice seeing familiar faces.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because most of some of these people here I see at the center all the time, you know, and we haven't seen each other since March, so it's nice seeing their faces. Right,
Yeah.
Yvonne?
Right.
And Yolanda, if you're still here.
My what?
I was going to say Yolanda, if she's still there.
Oh, okay.
I'm still here. I'm still
Oh,
here.
there you go, girl.
I'm still here.
Yeah, we may have
Oh.
Thank you so much, Tiana
Oh,
and
no
Miss
problem.
Sabrina. We truly appreciate all you are doing for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you
Okay.
guys, y'all have a good day and enjoy and step outside sometime.
That's right.
Vitamin D. Vitamin
And wear
D.
your mask.
That's
Right?
right.
And wash your
Okay.
hands.
All of that.
Yes.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Hey, Dr. Davis. I just seen Dr. Davis.
Hey, did I miss it?
Yes.
Well, I'm on vacation and I'm working on my career ladder and I looked, I said 10:50. I missed it. I'm so sorry. I'm
No,
out
we
of.
understand. It's recorded, and I guess I'll get with Susan. I'm not sure how to do the recording, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it'll be on our YouTube channel. Oh man,
Okay.
I'm so great.
Okay then.
Man, I feel bad. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but you enjoy your vacation.
Well,
So
it was just Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I think I'm gonna take the next 2 weeks off. I got 4 weeks I need to use before August 31st.
oh yeah. Okay.
Man, I sure hate I missed it. But let Sabrina know if she ever wants to come back. You know, she's more than welcome.
Yes. Will do. Will do. And thank you all.
Okay.